in the Star Telegram
Sure.
about the West Nile research on the yeah, and doxycycline or doxycycline. I forgot.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, Doxycycline. Uh-huh.
Cycling. Okay, I couldn't remember how to pronounce it. Anyway, have you tried that in the search for Ebola cure for Ebola? I mean,
Yes, yeah, yes, we have. We have not tried it on human patients, but we have done work animal models with mice and guinea pigs that showed them that were infected with Ebola and Marburg. That's another one just like Ebola.
uh-huh.
And it was pretty successful. We had 60% survival in the animals, mice and guinea pigs, and 100% fatality in the control. So it worked the same way. And the problem I've had with educated people is they don't see the value of this drug. They only see it as an antibiotic, and it's not. It is an antibiotic, but it also affects how the immune system sees these viruses and what response the immune system has. It's a little bit complex, but I can tell you about it if you want me to.
Yeah, the cytokine storm. Is that what you're referring to? The
Well, that's exactly it. Whenever you're infected with a virus,
uh-huh.
viruses that you're infected with are generally RNA, meaning they're not alive, like a computer chip that's now programming your immune system to make more virus like itself. Ebola, West Nile, dengue fever is another one that we've been very involved with. We have done in humans.
Uh-huh.
Um, all of these, it's chikungunya, which is emerging, same pattern. The viruses infect the cells, your white cells. They get inside of them and they hijack the DNA of the cell. And when they do that, they tell the DNA of your own white cell to make more virus just like itself.
Oh
So
my
it does.
gosh. Uh-huh.
And then at that point, the white cell that's infected dies, and it releases hundreds of new viruses that scatter throughout the system, the blood system, and infect new white cells. And that replication continues on and on and on. Like the flu, it does the same thing. Generally, you don't die from the flu. People have. But Ebola works this way. So does West Nile. So does dengue fever. So does chikungunya. And as your white cells die, they release a messenger.
Yeah.
And it's like when we die, we release ammonia and nitrogen gas. When your white cell dies, it releases something we call a cytokine. Cyto meaning white, kine means light.
Uh-huh.
And then cytokines are messengers. And there's three that we focused on. More have funny little names.
Yeah,
And the
I
three,
remember looking at that on there. Go ahead.
and what they do, these messengers tell the immune system there's something wrong, do something about it. And who they tell, as the blood passes by the thymus detects these elevated cytokines, and it is told to make a specific white blood cell called a T cell, T for thymus.
Uh-huh.
And in that class of T cells, there's one called natural killer cells. Sounds like a war movie. Well, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Then these natural killer cells will go out and attack the infected white cells, and then it'll attack the virus if they can find the virus. Because a lot of times the virus is going to be on the inside of the white cell.
Yeah.
And then the cytokines pass by the bone marrow, and all cells born out of the bone marrow, the first cells are stem cells, actually, just one before that. You probably heard about stem cells.
Yes. Stem cells. Yeah.
Uh, so these cells born out of the bone marrow, that the cytokines tell them to make a B cell, B for bone marrow,
Uh.
and these cells are the ones that make antibodies.
Yeah.
So now you got the immune response of making cells that make antibodies and cells that kill viruses.
Hmm.
That's what you're supposed to do. However, with Ebola and these others, the replication of the viruses are so fast and so many of the cells die from them being infected that it raises the level of cytokines to a level that tells the bone marrow and the thymus to make their products but it tells them to make it at a rate that they can't do. They can't make them fast enough.
Uh-huh. No, because there's thousands of them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they make incomplete T cells, incomplete B cells that don't work.
Oh, incomplete.
So now I have a multiple system that's not working. The virus is replicating even faster, increasing cytokines, telling the bone marrow and the thymus to make more and more and more, but they can't do that at that speed.
Yeah.
It's like, the plant at General Motors out here in Arlington puts out 50 cars a day with 500 people.
Uh-huh.
Now they're told to put out 500 cars a day. Well, you can't. They're not going to have steering wheels or engines or bumpers or horns or seats. That's the same thing. The immune system and the over-elevated cytokines. So there's two ways to stop this.
Mm-hmm.
One is downregulate the cytokines, and that's what doxycycline does. That's its action.
Uh-huh.
It makes sponges that we call receptors and antagonists, just other fancy words. But basically, they're sponges that absorb those three cytokines to bring it back down to a normal level. And to answer your question, yes, we have done this work in a level 4 lab in Russia, of all places, and it was quite successful. Now, we've repeated this in humans, not with Ebola, but with something called dengue hemorrhagic fever, which is just a mini Ebola.
Yeah.
Dengue is a mosquito-borne pathogen. We have it here in Texas.
Yeah.
The epidemic that we followed was in Merida, Mexico. We worked with the University of Merida. It's a medical school. They treated 200 patients with this.
Uh-huh.
And the 100 patients all were hospitalized. They all had hemorrhagic fever, which is pretty much Ebola does.
Yeah.
And the death rate is 20%. The death rate to Ebola is 80+%.
Uh-huh.
So out of the 200 patients, they all got the same hospital care. They all got the same fluid intake. They all got blood transfusions because you moved out.
Uh-huh.
And the 200 patients, 100 got the doxycycline and 100 did not.
Right.
The 100 that did not, 20 of them died, just right out of the book. That's exactly what the book says, 20%.
Uh-huh.
Out of the 100 that got the doxy, only 10% died. So we cut the fatality rate in half.
Yeah, and it
because
probably.
the doctors were, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we are now proceeding with another study, and we're going to change the dosage of the doxycycline. Instead of twice a day, we're going to give it 3 times a day, see if that increases the
Yeah.
survivability.
Yeah.
And that's where we are. Now, this material is being published in a journal in Brazil.
Okay.
It's a pretty scientific. I'd be happy to send you a copy of the publication.
Okay.
Because once you get it in a we call it peer-reviewed journal. I mean, other scientists besides yourselves have to look at the data and agree with it before they'll publish it in a journal.
Right.
And that's what we're waiting on.
Oh,
I
okay.
hope I wasn't too long.
No, no.
Hope I did.
You want to get that information out, and I do too. I make YouTube videos, and I was just wondering if it's okay to put that down, like publish that that information.
Yeah.
Because you want to get the information out, and I do too, because I believe you. Because I read about the I mean, all in the other medical books, it says that they're giving, even now at Parkland Hospital in Dallas, they recommend that nurses and doctors that are going to think they're going to go to a foreign country or be exposed to that, anything like that, they're going to take their doxycycline before they go. They're going to ramp up their immune system before they get exposed to something like that. But they're not telling anybody else about it. They're not giving it to anybody else, And so you have to.
Let me clarify why they're taking doxycycline. It's not because of Ebola.
Uh-huh.
Doxycycline is approved as a preventative to malaria.
Malaria. Yeah, that's what it said. Exactly.
Malaria. Yeah, and that's available to any traveler. And if you go to a traveler's clinic, and you're going into an endemic of an area where malaria is, the traveler's clinic will recommend 2 drugs. One of them is doxycycline because it prevents malaria.
Uh-huh.
and the other one is Larium, which is a once a week pill where doxycycline is once a day,
Uh-huh.
but the Larium has psychotic uh, problems with it. And I mean, that's well published. It makes
Oh.
some people go nuts. They always have bad dreams on it. They also get paranoid,
Well,
and
that's
that's
no
not a real
good.
good thing.
Now, that's not good when you're
Paranoid.
traveling. It
No,
sounds like,
no, I've traveled a lot. I've been around some of the people in Larium, and they were just psychotic,
well,
and
I wouldn't
so
even
they
recommend
never
that.
used they never used it again.
It sounds like
They tried it.
lithium. It sounds like it's kin to lithium or
Yeah,
lithium.
it could be. I don't know. You can look it up, but
The
it's definitely
IUM on the end. Uh-huh. Well, anyway, well, you can't get doxycycline without a prescription, right? It's only with,
this is what's interesting. Yeah, you can get a prescription from your doctor. Now, I'm going to share with you a story, and you can kind of Google it and find out.
uh,
But about 10 years ago, we started looking at multiple sclerosis and cytokine patterns. And that's the key. Look at the cytokines, whatever these pathogens are produced.
uh-huh.
And you have an elevation of cytokines in a group of people that have remitting, relapsing MS. And that's where you have it, but you don't have it where you're going to live there all the time. You have an attack every 2, 3, 4 months. And those
Yeah.
attacks increase over time until you are debilitated and in a wheelchair. During the
Wow.
attack,
Mm-hmm.
you see an elevated cytokine pattern. And
Hmm.
one patient that was a organ player at a church, they called me just like you're calling me now.
Yeah.
Why don't you come by? And she knew when this attack was coming on. She could feel it the day before. And this is called a exacerbation. And she could feel this coming on. And I said, will you come down to my office when you feel it coming on? Let me draw a blood sample. So she did. And we started seeing these cytokines elevate every day until she got the attack. Well, it was just a day before she got the attack.
Mm-hmm.
I said, no, you do the same cytokines that we've been dealing with. I'm going to give you some doxycycline. I had some from the trip. And
Yeah.
when you feel it coming on, take it. So far this sounds like bull, but now it is now recommended for MS patients to take doxycycline along with their other drug called beta interferon, and it will make the attack shorter. You don't even need the beta interferon. Doxycycline will make that.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
that sounds great. I'm glad that they found that out. Well, yeah, because I remember back when I was in high school, I thought I had mono, and the doctor gave me that, and he explained what it, real short, synopsis of what it would help, how the white blood cells would. Well, so do you know what the white blood cell count is on somebody that's got Ebola? Like, do they have elevated or lower?
it won't. The white cell count will drop because the viruses are killing them. Now, your white cell count increases with bacteria, but with Ebola, they drop. And so is your platelet count, which is
Mm-hmm.
very important for coagulation. That drops too. And
Right.
that's something you can give the person, but it's really not going to stop the cycle. You got 10 days when symptoms set on to death.
And this is the article where I found out about uh, Terry Fredeking and the research that he's doing here. He's a biologist, and this name of his company is Antibody Systems of Hearst, right here. And they could probably use some funding if you knew of anybody that wanted to do a donation. And it says the doxycycline has been approved for decades as an antibiotic approved for decades, but not from West Nile because nobody ever did a study. And so his company funded a 3-year study that looked at doxycycline's effect on dengue fever and the way it acts similar to the West Nile virus. They both produce what's a condition called a cytokine storm, which is an overproduction of the white blood cells. Like if you're, well, down further he gives an analogy, but it says a group of 200 patients were given, 100 were given doxycycline, and 20 who didn't get it died. The 10 who did get it, 10 of those who did get it died, but so there was 50% higher survival rate in the treatment group. Somehow I said that wrong, but there's the words of it. Anyway, the cytokine storm is produced by the infection is like, too many white blood cells produces like the production of pus and sores and all kinds of stuff. So, and that's what fills up their lungs, where they can't breathe. When their lungs are full of pus or phlegm or whatever it is, that's what it leads, to the organ damage, alveoli and the lungs get broken and they're not able to be repaired. But he says it's like if General Motors employees are putting out 100 cars a day and suddenly they're being told to make 500 cars a day with the same number of people, then the assembly line workers get exhausted and start making mistakes. You get cars without starters, drive shafts, whatever. You would have 500 cars a day, but none of them would work. That's what the white blood cells are overproducing when you have a viral infection. And overproduction, you would think that, well, that should make you well. You have a whole bunch of white blood cells. But what is happening is they're overproducing poorer or weaker versions of the white blood cell. There's a lot of them, but they're not as good. So the doxycycline makes it stop overproducing, slows down the rate, and makes the white blood cells and antibodies more stronger so that they're able to be, fight the disease with their strength and lower numbers, without the inflammatory effects of, too much phlegm or pus or whatever choking the body. And so I'll show you some more articles here. Let's see. Just read on here if you want to, and then I'll get to the other pictures and end this video so I can hurry and upload it so I can get the word out. But anyway, I have some. I've asked my doctor for some, and I have some for my pets too. Because you can catch it from monkeys. No telling what. Horses, you might be able to catch it from your horse or your smaller pets. You don't know. So it's good to have a good supply on hand. Anyway, I don't know if this phone number is any good, but I'll give you his current phone number. Or it's on my other video, at the first of the video, I think. But here's this, and